See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats, and all the support you need to sound your very best.
This is Jed MacKay, and you're listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Welcome to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 307 and you are with your High Priest of Khonshu, Ray. Hello everybody. This is a very, very unplanned episode. So bear with me, we are live streaming. Jump on, come on, help me out here. I'm Ray, as I said. Soloing it at the moment, doing the Han, and you and I, everyone, will be covering Moon Knight, issue 16, Chinatown from Jed MacKay, a new comic book. It's a MOONSHINE, and I did have that. Look, this is straight away. Ray is in trouble. I didn't update the the teleprompt thingy-majigsies. So just bear with me. Again, we are live streaming, so there are visual references here. So, as mentioned, we'll be doing a Moon Knight, Volume 9, Issue 16 by Jed MacKay. As also mentioned, as you can tell, I've really slapdashed this together. I was just mindful of not releasing this in time. You know, this is a new comic book, wanted to discuss it, wanted to get it out there. There was some great discussion in our group, so wanted to get this out there, and unfortunately, look, to be completely honest, schedules are a little tight at the moment. I do have family over here from overseas. A few things going on with the family. All good, mind you, nothing bad, but it makes things tricky to record, so I'm on my lunch break here. I'm working from home, and I thought this would be a good time. I had you American loonies in mind. I thought this time would be decent in the evening for you to potentially come on and say hello. Before any of that, of course, I've got to thank all our patronies. So a huge thank you to all our patronies. A little shout out there to Jonathan Sapson. Hi, Jonathan. Jonathan dropped in a line. Hope you got access to all those videos that your tier allows you. It sounds like you did. So happy days. I'm very happy. But thanks to the likes of Jonathan and all the patronies, can't do this show without you. And that's why I really do want to keep this show ticking, albeit, with time constraints. And unfortunately, couldn't get a guest co-host to come on board this time around, but I still wanted to plow ahead. And let's get this show on the road. A big thank you also to our top tier patronies, Odin Sword, Drew Toombs, Daniel Doing, and Frank the Think Tank. Incidentally, I want to talk about his awesome podcast, I Want to Fight It. You've got to check it out. It's with his nephew, Pablo Candy Bar. More on that later towards the end of the show. But a big thank you also to CLZ Comics and from Dreamland Comics from Schaumburg, Illinois. So, loonies, by way of white noise, there's not that much to go on. I had been trawling the internet for stuff. A little shout out, Russell. Russell did mention there was a sale going on at Amazon for those 3 3/4 inch Moon Knight figures. Go check it out, see if you can pick one up. US dollars wise, I think they go for about $8, so that's a steal. Go check it out if you haven't got one already. I have a vague recollection that another bit of Moon Knight merchandise has been released, but I can't for the life of me remember. But anyway, I will potentially put that in the show notes. We'll see how we go. Again, this is really a slapdash show. I hope you can bear with me, and I hope you have actually bought Moon Knight 16 too, because it was a really good issue from Jed MacKay and Alessandro Cappuccio. So not much by the way of white noise. I couldn't really... the only other thing, I did see was, look, there was a little bit more, I'm going to call it a bit more fluff. Oscar Isaac teasing or suggesting that there will, they're in talks or they are working out the pre-production for Moon Knight Season 2. But again, that's all he say. I can't really verify anything. I mean, it was only a few moments ago, I think, that Oscar Isaac said that it seemed pretty unlikely that there was going to be something, that he may not even show up in the movie. So I don't know what's going on there. I'd say to just, keep your peepers, keep your eyes trained on the comic books, because they're doing well, and we do get a lot of Mooney there. We may, I don't know, we may as well get into our moonshine. So I'm going to hit this little doohickey, and away we go. And as mentioned, yep, I put it up there before. It's a Moonshine, issue 16. I might actually start to share my screen too. Why not? Share screen. That's not the screen I want to show you, nor is that one. That's a little Finn. Right, so we have this issue to discuss, and so I'm just going to jump in quickly. Of course, this is it's called Chinatown, and in keeping with this slapdash nature of a show, I don't have a bare bones, so to speak, but I will go through the issue, don't worry. For those that want to get a roundabout summary of what it is, I'm just going to read this out. Moon Knight has been trying to dismantle the structure, the group responsible for turning his assistant Reese into a vampire. In retaliation, the Tutor, leader of the structure, has sent the assassins Grand Mal and the Nemean after Moon Knight. Moon Knight and his alters investigated the assassins and also learned that the structure does not venture into Chinatown due to a mysterious rival vampire presence. So, penned by Jed MacKay, drawn by Alessandro Cappuccio, with Rachelle Rosenberg on the awesome colours, letterer VC's Cory Petit. And then we have some cover artist Steven Segovia, who's been doing most of, I think, the Moon Knight covers of late, and Rachelle Rosenberg. And there's also a variant cover by Joshua Cassara and Dean White with NetEase. I'm assuming that would be the colouring. We also have editor Tom Brevoort as well. So a pretty, for listeners, I mean, please don't take this show as your stock standard show, but what I will try to do is to kind of go through some major points in this without having to go through panel by panel. I just want to go through some main points, what my overall impression was as well. And then any comments on writing, art, characterizations, themes, or references to any other runs. I want to open up this discussion, this solo discussion, i.e. just me, by just saying I really enjoyed this issue again. There is a familiarity, I think, with the structure that Jed MacKay uses in this story. Look, it's very much a setup issue, but I did notice a very, almost it was a replica of how things were done with previous issues, most notably, I think, issue 15 and potentially 16, whereby you have the main expositions elaborated on, and that kind of paralleled with more action elsewhere. So for this issue, we had Mr. Knight and Reese and Soldier meeting up with, and I am going to look up, they go to Chinatown, obviously, and they meet up with the person in Chinatown who ends up being Lady Yulan. And Lady Yulan is a vampire herself. She turns out to be an assassin for one of these other vampires. I was about to say for the Tutor. I think the Tutor... Yi Yang lived too long. So for Yi Yang, basically, Yi Yang is the boss of Lady Yulan, and the Tutor, who is the leader of the structure, has a connection with them as well. This was quite good. I mean, we got into it as well. I'm going to have to do a reread to really get a full sense of it, but basically... what I thought was great was that we don't get like the big bad. We get a mention of Dracula. We get a mention of the Tutor trying to establish a more of a power, more of control globally for vampires. And what Moon Knight has done to really irk his plans is not the fact that I guess he's getting, in the traditional sense, getting in the way of the Tutor, but in a sense that he is starting to make his own vampires. And this is mentioned with Yulan, that the fresh ones, like Reese and Soldier, she can smell that they're fresh vampires. And this poses a threat to the Tutor, who really... doesn't want any opposition when it comes to him expanding his empire. And so I'm just reading here as well. I'm going to read this out as well, just to jog my memory. Yulan dismisses Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, and says, Yulan, she left Yi Yang's service almost a century ago, hasn't seen her since. Century is nothing to her. Yi Yang has gone a little bit crazy, having lived really long. This whole thing about immortality, and I guess the mind can't take it. But yes, immortality soured her mind and soul, made her an insane monster. Do you know what it's like to work for someone like that? And I thought it was a great retort by Mr. Knight. By Soldier, but... you can kind of get the parallels between Mark and Khonshu as well. Yulan goes on to say, if I move against the Tutor, then he'll make Yi Yang, wherever she is, aware of my whereabouts. So this is the connection that the Tutor has. So the Tutor has a card up his sleeve against Yulan. So Yulan is she's got her hands tied behind her back because she knows if she does anything against him, he'll let Yi Yang know. And I'm keen to see who Yi Yang is. Sounds like a real badass. And Yulan says, and when she comes for me, she'll burn all of Chinatown, if not New York City. So as I mentioned, this kind of bounces between their discussions, which essentially is a really huge exposition to get us going for this. So we get more action with Hunter's Moon, which is awesome, and Nemean and Grand Mal, and that's where our action lies. And so, I don't know, I'm going to say I wasn't disappointed by the kind of repetitive structure that Jed MacKay used, because it's still solid and it still served its purpose. I guess it was just apparent for me that it was there again, and it was kind of, I don't know, that it was noticeable. You know, and like I said, it wasn't too bad, but I just did notice this repetition. And when that happens, it kind of, I guess, takes you out of it a little bit, because you'd want kind of a little bit of variety in the way the stories are kind of told. So if that is like one small critique, that's what I'd say with it. But the content itself, what Jed's trying to convey across, and the way that he's the things that he's showing and able to do, but able to show basically two stories in tandem is really good. So we get Hunter's Moon basically fighting his way with, I'm going to just jump here, again, visual aids, anyone watching this live stream can see. Now this was awesome. We get Hunter's Moon holding his own against Nemean and Grand Mal, and Nemean's a pretty tough nut. Grand Mal's quite dangerous. But then he gets overwhelmed. There are a whole heap of vampires here, some of Tutor's acolytes, so to speak, and they mob him here. The beautiful artwork from Alessandro Cappuccio. So the various things. You see Hunter's Moon, he's staking the vampires. You immediately get the skeletal or the skeleton of the vampire, but he's slashing away with his crescent moon. But the numbers are there. He's just getting overwhelmed. And, that comes with a sense of, as a reader, of just, yourself getting a little bit claustrophobic with all these. But again, testament to Cappuccio's visuals here as well. So, I mean, Yulan also mentions that this is the thing. The Tutor, he's got grand schemes. She essentially says to be the first internationally recognized sovereign vampire nation in history. And also the Tutor wants to reach out to none other than a Dracula. So big things planned from Tutor. And we've got to remember that this is the big bad behind Moon Knight's woes, I guess, essentially. So the Tutor, very unassuming kind of villain, but I guess his reach now is kind of shown in this issue. I liked also as well just how Yulan mentions Mr. Knight's garb, being white. There's a little quip there that Mr. Knight says at the beginning, something like, they can see me coming, which was a nice little reference, to the Houston run and also to the Warren Ellis run. So I'll just go back a few pages here. It's right at the beginning, I think. It's at the beginning they say, so you found out that there's something or someone in Chinatown that the Tutor's scared of, and we're just walking in, and he pretty much says, like I said, I like it when they see me coming. So that that was a nice little quip. But Yulan also mentioned about his clothes, which I thought was cool. She likes his outfit, but she says, where I come from, back in my day, you wore white for funerals. I've worn it ever since. So that kind of, in a nutshell, lets you know about Lady Yulan. A death surrounds her, whether or not she's lost a lot of loved ones, whether or not she has put a lot of people in the ground, that's left up to you. But she's a really interesting figure. I like her. I'm going to say I like her more than Tutor. I think the Tutor, although he's quite the big bad, I think he's been... we just haven't seen much of him, And the aesthetic of Lady Yulan, immediately, she's got some flair. There's some interest in her as well. She has a lot of information, obviously, and she can kick ass as well. She grabs Mr. Knight. Where is that? This is a great visual here. So again, listeners, I'm looking at, there's a splash page where she drops her saucer, I guess a bowl that she's drinking, I'm assuming blood from. And as it's falling through the air, she grabs Mr. Knight and she kind of holds him by a neck. And just before the bowl hits the ground. So she's pretty fast. She's got lightning vampiric speed. So, not to be messed with. Also, what I was really kind of shocked at, and I thought it was a great little shock, was you get this, when she's holding him by the neck, you get a glimpse of, I guess, what she is. She has a very demonic face, and she says here, she's an ancient monster. So I mean, whether or not she's just a vampire or she's beyond that. I mean, remember, she's an assassin. So she's done a lot of things for Yi Yang. But, so she could be more than just a mere vampire. She does seem to have vampiric qualities. It's just assumed because she's also kind of surrounding herself with vampires. But yeah, she's got this very kind of monstrous face, it seems. And again, full credit to Cappuccio for doing that. Got horns or tusks coming out of her cheek. She's got glowing red eyes and almost an indescribable face, which is really cool as well. So look, the other main thing, I guess, is that the two other main things I think that we can get from this story. One of the main aspects is that Yulan actually has more information for Moon Knight, and she knows of this massive, it's a conclave in Manhattan. All the dignitaries of the vampire factions around the world are attending. So this is like shooting fish in a barrel, really, for Moon Knight. And she mentions, I can put you in the same room as him, because Mr. Knight wants to, basically he's out to kill the tutor. But being an opportunistic person, if there are a whole heap of other bad people that he can kill, then he'll definitely, I think, do that. So Lady Yulan says, my only catch is that the room will also be filled with some of the most dangerous vampires in the world. Now, this has got to be some great, a great setup for what's to come. Moon Knight versus the best of vampires. You can't get any better than that. Moon Knight just responds, good. And again, beautifully drawn by Alessandro Cappuccio. So that is setting up, after all the kind of information giving, that sets up for the next few issues, and I guess how the arc is drawn out. We all, as I mentioned before, we get Tutor trying to reach out to Dracula, so whether or not he will show up, I have a sense, and my fingers are crossed, that the boys over at Moon Knight Corps might be able to get the ultimate, reference. And we see Moon Knight face to face with Dracula, and somehow will Moon Knight be asking him for his goddamn money? I don't know, but it's very exciting. He's getting the slow crawl. It's been wondered ever since the beginning, ever since issue 1, where we had vampires, that kind of question of, is Moon Knight going to meet Dracula? We are getting one step closer now, so that's really exciting. The last main aspect I wanted to talk about was, I guess it's the, massive spoilers, I guess it's the fate of Hunter's Moon. So, as you can see, he's not in a good way here. I'm going to see if I can enlarge this. He's not in a good way. He's got crowbars and, screwdrivers and hammers and all sorts of, building materials. They must have been fighting near a building site, because he's got all sorts of accoutrement of construction building and handyman work. But he has, he's killed a fair few vampires, but he's not looking the best as well. The shocking thing we see here is that, again, there's this nice little sleight of hand from MacKay, because we have what seems to be this tropey thing of Nemean and Grand Mal, and Nemean going up to saying, go back to Mr. Knight and send him this message. Then Grand Mal actually says, this is actually Grand Mal saying, take a message to Moon Knight, tell him that we're coming for him. And actually, you know what? And then Nemean grabs him, and a beautiful and deadly page at the end. It's like, we'll tell him ourselves, and there's a big crack. So you can only imagine, potentially, Dr. Badr, Hunter's Moon, has had his neck snapped by Nemean. Shocking, but then also remember, we're dealing with fists of Khonshu. We're dealing with acolytes of Khonshu. There's no reason why he can't come back, but it still doesn't make it any less shocking, I guess, when you do see that last page. But really good stuff, actually. I really did enjoy this. I'm just going to... Oh, and next issue we see there's a cover. It doesn't look like Steven Segovia, someone else, but I can only assume Nemean has taken on a transformed... the transformed form of a lion, the Nemean lion, and Grand Mal in the background. I'm just going to flick through back, so in case I have missed anything here. I think that pretty much wraps up what we got for this issue. I mean, it was heavy in exposition, but as mentioned many times, I think it's necessary to do that. My only quibble was that perhaps it was... Look, at the end of the day, look, I'm going to change my mind. It was good. It was great that we were able to bounce between the two. There was enough there between Hunter's Moon and Nemean and Grand Mal. If you compare it to the previous issues where it was just incidental, it was that issue where Moon Knight was fighting Grand Mal and Nemean, and then his friends finally come up. It seemed that had a little bit less substance. It just purely served the purpose of action for the comics, whereas this with Hunter's Moon, although it's the main portion of it is action, at least there is a ramification at the end. It was building up towards. So him fighting the vampires, just being overwhelmed. I think it made it a lot more effective, say here. But again, it's the same sort of formatting that MacKay has done. Let me just go back, see if I have missed any. I think that's pretty much it. So I don't want to dwell too much and just tread water with you guys when discussing this. We do have... Oh, hello from Rome. Hi. Is that the country? Not the country. Is that the city? Or is that someone's actual name? Hello, Rome. How are you? I hope you're good, and I hope you're enjoying Moon Knight as well. I am going to stop this sharing. There I am again. So we do... I did manage to grab some feedback from the fantastic likes of everyone who does follow Moon Knight. Let me see if I can grab this. Pardon me for my sniffles. So I got a couple of things here. I'm going to put on the banner. So we've got some quotation marks here. We have quotation marks. Let me see. And like I said, if anyone is here, like that person from Rome, hello, please jump in. Happy to chat, happy to talk. So from our Facebook group, got some feedback here about issue 16. This one is from Mario Di Giacomo, or Digicom, valued Petroni. Mario says, a solid issue. We get a lot of answers, including just how Soldier was turned, and the plot moves forward a notch or two. That's right. I mean, we do get that little description from Reese, which I thought was pretty cool and a little bit icky at the same time, how she was shot through a bit of her heart and went into a soldier, and that's how he became a vampire. Mario continues... The subplot involving Hunter's Moon confronting Grand Mal and the Nemean was decent as well, although I confess I had to reread those scenes a few times because I kept looking at the dialogue instead. Oh yeah, I think there's a lot to look at there, Mario. It is, again, lavishly drawn by Cappuccio. Mario says, I suspect the cliffhanger isn't as shocking as it appears given his patron's proclivities for resurrection, but I suppose we'll see. My point as well. If I had any complaint, it would be that the issue is very talky, and that can make for a bit of a dull read. It's mostly talking heads, although thanks to the art team, very pretty talking heads. I'll give it 8 out of 10. P.S. Given Yi Yang's history, how long before you think Night Raven shows up? Ooh, I don't know, Mario. Night Raven sounds really cool. I have little to go on there, but I agree very much with you in the sense that it was a very dialogue-heavy issue, and I've got nothing against that as well. It's a necessity if you want to kind of build a lot of depth with characters. But yeah, this was pretty much just them talking in a room. The odd, break in crockery and a grab of a throat as well. But had some great action from Hunter's Moon, so can't complain there. Thank you, Mario. Another one here from Russell Moran, a friend of the show, fellow co-host of Predator and Prey, a little shameless plug. It's our Yaucha podcast, all to do with Predator. Also, Russell is, you'll find him on billions of podcasts. Tomes of Evil, Hobgoblin Historia, Stakes and Staples, Trapped in a World, and of course Gamma Charge, all to do with the Hulk. But Russell drops his thoughts in. I love this issue so much. I love how Cappuccio and MacKay can simultaneously give us a talking, exposition-filled issue and an action-packed comic. I need more of Lady Yulan now. Wow. Yeah, she's great. Actually, I'm very impressed with her. And she hasn't really even done that much, and she just wears a simple costume. She's like if Lady Shiva was a vampire. Curious to see her boss as well. Yeah, Yang. Great fight throughout the issue between the assassins and Hunter's Moon. Hunter's Moon is so badass. I definitely doubt he's dead. My two theories: he has to become the thing he hates, becomes a vampire, or he's just resurrected like Mark has been multiple times. Oh, and by the way, Dracula Stakes and Staples material, so Russell gets in a little plug there for Stakes and Staples, of course. 9.5 out of 10, Russell. That's a huge score. I forgot to give my score. I think I'd give it... it is solid. I'd give it an 8, I'd say, only because... the art is beautiful. It's chock full of information. I'm trying to think of just different things. Like, you would be able to just pick it up just off the shelf if you had nothing to do or no knowledge of Moon Knight. It still works as a single issue, but it's definitely a setup issue. So, no, thank you, Russell, for that. That's awesome. We get some more feedback here from Lena, the DID system, part of our fabulous Facebook community. And Lena says, I was a little disappointed by the lack of Stephen and Jake in this issue, unless one of them was in the Mr. Knight suit, but we aren't given that information. It was still pretty interesting. No, it was still a pretty interesting issue that gives us a lot of intriguing new information. And even a reference to that effing nerd who owes Moon Knight money. Yes, maybe this means we will eventually get an actual canon meeting of the two characters. One can only hope. Yeah, I mean, we're slowly edging closer, Lena, I think, to that. So, look, as I said, it's going to be a huge payoff to the boys over at MK Core. P.S. Is Hunter's Moon dead? Of course not. No one ever dies in comics, even before the mutants had their fancy gold eggs. I thought you were about to say gold balls, Lena. But yeah, eggs will do. Why not? Thank you so much, Lena. It sounds like you're enjoying this issue as well. Again, just really solid work from MacKay. I mean, he's really kind of edging up there as kind of one of the more important, I guess, creators on the Moon Knight title. Like, the stuff that he's doing is really really exciting. Anyway, another one here from Jonathan Sapsid, another value patroni. Jonathan says, great issue. This Vampire Conclave plot is working for me much more than the Zodiac one. Although I hope it's not just a way to get Blade in to save the day, as is hinted. Ooh, I forgot about Blade. How cool would that be if he drops in and we have a team up? Lady Yulan is great visually, and with her backstory and a smart idea to tell that over Hunter's Moon getting bashed up page by page. He's not the sharpest crescent in the belt, is he? Much more unquestioning and overconfident as a fist of Khonshu, as this solo mission shows. Great setup for the arc. Cappuccio and Rosenberg both on top form. How about that creepy glimpse of Yulan without her makeup? Chilling. Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, she's the assassin to Yi Yang, but I'm just excited to see how, what Yi Yang is, what she looks like. This is an immortal beast, and, no slouch when it comes to raising hell. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan. It sounds very positive all over. Now, if listeners will bear with me, I am going to just check the other platforms to see if we have received anything else by way of... yes, from our Facebook page, I get something from Brandon Bartley Chambers. Thank you so much, Brandon. I know he's a frequent loony. The whole time I could feel something was going to go poorly for Hunter's Moon. Nobody is ever truly dead in the comics, but I'm still going to miss his presence until Khonshu decides to bring him back. Yeah, me too as well. I mean, he's proved to be quite a popular character. I guess it was a big swing to introduce another Fist of Khonshu. Well, not only just another, but the other fist. It was a great concept. Great concept by Jed MacKay and Tom Brevoort, as we know from our discussions with Jed. But thank you, Brandon, so much for that. I'm going to just jump, if you please indulge me, I'm going to jump into Twitter, and I'll just see if we have anything from there. And just has been a while. I can see that's a bit weird. Just saw the live stream of this actual show. That's a bit weird. Nothing from there, and I'll just check finally Instagram. Apologies if I do miss out some of your comments. I hope it's not too bad. Hey, it's Chris. Hello, Chris. How you going? It's me going solo. I'm just going. Well, let us know, Chris. Have you read issue 16 too? I've got one from Instagram, and it's just a small one. It's from Metal Gun Talk, and Metal Gun Talk says Hunter's Moon will return next full moon. LMAO. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. This is a cabana. I'm not sure if you caught me at the beginning. This is like I just decided, hell, I want to do this episode now. So it's my lunch break. This is the cabana where I usually do work from home. So I've got the in-laws over. So I usually record up in the attic, but I brought the gear. I brought the rig down here, and I've just set up. It's a pretty nice place. I've got the heater on. It's starting to get a little toasty, but I'm happy with that. All good. All good. Thank you so much, Metal Gun Talk. Thank you, Chris, for jumping in. Everybody, look, if you don't know, and again, for the podcast of this episode, if you don't know CMK7 people, boop, who's just dropped in a line, I do have a link in the show notes. Go check out Chris's great work, digital work. Check out his digital portfolio. Consider dropping a line to him, engaging him for work. He's done the videos to the opening of the show, as well as the small transitions, and it just cannot thank Chris enough for his selfless work. It's so fun to add these on to the show. So Chris, a big thanks there, and thank for the compliment of the studio. Hopefully it will get even more. There'll be even more Moon Knight stuff. I can't see, my big melon is in the way, but there's a Moon Knight photo there. Again, please check out the video for all my visual references. Well, that is all of the feedback. It appears to be So a thank you to everybody for all your discussions and chats and posts and just fandom of Moon Knight. It's been fantastic to cover Moon Knight, to give Moon Knight an unofficial podcast. So don't worry, still here, still going to go strong. I might see how we go just with time, because again, as I mentioned, just with family commitments and stuff, it's a little tricky now, and we are in daylight saving as well. So again, that doesn't help when trying to tee up a chat with a US loony. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps us for this episode. Again, I wanted to shout out I Want to Fight It by Frank the Think Tank. He's been doing great work, he and his nephew, covering cryptids and mythological creatures, and I think potentially sci-fi characters and supervillains and stuff, and they fight it, and they kind of describe how they would tackle something from, Bigfoot to a bunyip, which I thought had real fun. That was in episode 3. It's a weekly show. That's, for those that don't know, that's an Australian Aboriginal kind of mythological creature. So yeah, go check him out. The links will be in the show notes. Go check out I Want to Fight It from Frank the Think Tank. Just wanted to give him a big shout out. And next phase, oh my gosh, I don't think I've even considered what's up next. Just check out the night sky. We're going to go back to the phases of the moon. Or actually, I think the Moon Knight Annual might be out soon. I think Jed tweeted about that. I will get the information for that. Keep your eyes peeled on our social media platforms. It might be a coverage of the Moon Knight Annual, which I can't wait. I mean, it's got Werewolf by Night as well, and for those who've watched the Disney Plus Werewolf by Night show will know how cool it is. So keep your eyes peeled out for episode 308. I'll see if I can get a co-host in just to chat and bounce off ideas. That will be great. Once again, a huge thank you to all the patronies. Thank you so much for sticking with us. It's a real big help. I'm going to have to reassess maybe towards the end of the year, how best to utilize your fine patronage. I mean, so far it's been going great guns with our own website, just keeping the lights on for all our live streaming and our podcasting service. But there's more that we can do with it, I'm sure. Just got to give a rethink. But huge thank you for your continued support. Big thanks again to Odin, Daniel, Drew, Frank, Justin, Derek, Wayne, Josh, Anthony, Russell, Michael, Mario, Matthew, and Jonathan. And patreon.com/RTK Moon Knight is where you can find us as well if you want to join. Please do. There will be an October bonus episode exclusive to patronies. I've been releasing one per month. Time is getting tight, so I think I mentioned to Jonathan, but I'll let all the patronies know. If I can't get it out by the end of October, it will roll over to November. So we'll definitely get out early November, and then obviously we'll have another November bonus episode. I've been in chats with good mates Justin and Noel a while ago. I know Noel's very busy. Oh, a big spectacle! A huge congratulations to Noel, frontman of Deleta, fellow loony, fellow podcaster, most notably Trapped in a World. A huge congrats, Noel, and to Laura and to Stella on their new addition to the family, Arlo. So happy for you guys. You might be knee deep in poo right now, or at least we. But I'm hoping you're loving every second. So big love to you, to big fella, and to Arlo and Laura and Stella as well. I totally lost my train of thought there because I just remembered I wanted to congratulate Noel on air. So a big thank you to our sponsors again: Odin Sword, Frank the Think Tank, Fringe Night, or should I say Daniel doing. You've heard him a couple of episodes ago. He's doing great stuff. And support Daniel on patreon.com/fringenight27. He's doing some cosplay. He's got a 3D printer. His costumes look awesome. And also Drew Toombs, his music. You have to listen to it. Just slap it on. Sit down and slap it on. You can catch Drew's music on soundcloud.com/Toombs with a Z, or lurkmusic with a ck.bandcamp.com. CLZ Comics, go check out collectors.com. I use it. They're great. I love them, actually. I'm now a fully paying person. Oh yes, and there you go, SimK7. Congrats, Noel. Congrats, buddy. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, CLZ Comics are great. If you really do cherish your collection and want to create order, go check them out. I'm fully paying now. Why not? And for a little bit more, you can actually get their link with cover price, which is a price guide as well, and you can get market values for your comics. Finally, Dreamland Comics, if you use the code MOON, you can get 20% off the store. Not 20% off the whole store. I mean, I'm sure they're not selling their whole store. 20% off their online content in their store. Geez, Ray. Finally, Collective. We're part of the Collective. Some great shows going on at the moment. Please check them all out. Look, there's a cavalcade. I'm going to use different adjectives. Cavalcade of shows coming from the Capes and Lunatics stable. There's a plethora of shows from those boys, that is Russell, Justin, and Noel. Gamma Charge, as mentioned, Trapped in the World, Tomes of Evil, Hobgoblin Historia, Stakes and Staples. And also you got the likes of Dave Finn going multi, doing the Corbin Dallas multi-pass. He's got, of course, his core show, Signal of Doom, but also Dread or Dead, and he does a Legion of Superheroes one as well with his good mate Adam. So a big shout out to all. Again, I keep on forgetting to do this, but for the visuals, again, I want to thank everyone. There they all are again, just in visual form. Thank you very much. There are executive producers and co-producers of the show, i.e. our valued patronies. You can contact us as well just on email, feedback@itkmoonnight.com. We're on itkmoonnight.com, the website. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Get Vocal. Well, actually, maybe not on Get Vocal anymore. I think they went bust. Oh my God, Ray. Got to update that. Patreon and Podchaser as well. As you can see, just copy those on the screen or just click on the handy links in our show notes for that. All right, loonies. I have waffled and rambled enough. I feel like I am a jaffle maker because they make waffles and don't they ramble too? Anyway, as always, thank you so much for listening, and may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.
Hello world, it's time to open the green door and enter the strongest podcast there is, Gamma Charge.
Twice a month,
Russell and I dive into the history of the Incredible Hulk in comics, film, TV, games, and more.
That's right, Justin, and we rate and review all the Jade Giants media, good and not so good, with a smash or a gamma clap. And we put on the rant pants when we just can't take it.
And join us on Patreon to get exclusive bonus podcasts, prizes, and more at patreon.com/Gamma Charge Hulk Podcast.
We will see you real soon, Gamma Beasts. Stay green.
Gamma Charge.
The strongest podcast there is.